Oh, what up, nerds? So, I started this process 2 weeks ago, but I had some shit come up and basically stopped me from working on my video. So, forgive me because this is basically a week late, and now I'm a week behind of my schedule. But I want to drive the NYG for my birthday. Now, I just decided to put a stock motor in the NYG. No cam. I mean, it's got like a little baby cam, but not the big choppy cam. But I've got a clutch. The transmission should be fine. I bought a new rear main seal for it. So I realized that if I'm not like actively working on the car, I'm not thinking about it. If I'm not thinking about it, it's not going to get done. So I basically have 2 weeks to get this running, and then I can just go up to Harrisburg and get a plate for it. So what we're going to do today is put a rear main seal on the block, and then I'm going to attach the transmission to the block, and then if I'm feeling froggy I might mount it, but I doubt that's going to happen, but we'll see. So you can follow me along. By the way, like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. So this is the motor that I'm going to use today. It's from my 2001 RT Neon I bought years ago from my buddy Scott, and the car basically succumbed to rust. It was a Western Pennsylvania car. It was his daily for a long time, and it just got really bad, and it wasn't going to pass inspection when I moved up here. So I just parted it out. The rear disc brakes live on my daily, and the transmission's over on a shelf, and the suspension is in pieces, and the motor's going to end up in my NYG. So when I bought the car from Scott, the Magnum head was broken. He was replacing the coolant temperature sensor, threaded it in too far, and he had actually cracked the head. So it was pretty unfortunate. But the parts from that went on to work in other people's cars later. So I had a standard single cam head, and I had it milled 20 thousandths. So I put it in there with a Magnum neon cam. It was the 2001 neon cam, which is a little bit hotter than a standard single cam neon cam, or rather than the 02 to 04 Magnum cam. Has a little bit more lift, just a touch more duration. So it'll rev up to like 7,000, which will be kind of fun. Then the bottom end is just a standard, well, they have different pistons, but it's hard to explain. It'll take some abuse, but I'm not really going to put it through that much abuse, except for some nitrous. Anyway, I'm going to replace the rear main seal on it, and we'll go from there. There we go. There we go. Old seal is out. Let's clean that up a little bit. Let's see. Got some engine degreaser, parts cleaner stuff in here. That'll clean it up enough. All right. Oh, right on the screwdriver. It's right where I wanted it to go. Alrighty. Push that in there just a little bit. Ooh, not like that. Not quite like that, but that'll. I need to go get something to push that in. Well, I forgot to hit play or record, but got it in there. Basically, I set it and then started hammering in a circular motion with the dead blow, not letting one side get worked in too far. So, pretty mad I missed all that. God dang it. But I just kind of set it in here, and I actually spun it a hair to kind of seat in the inside. And then I started working around the edges lightly at first to get it, make sure it was seated really well, and then just, you know, harder and harder taps until it was completely set. I just want to make sure that it's kind of even all around. So this side's in a hair further than down here and over here. So I want to get this side a couple more whacks with this. Get down in here. That one's down. That's good. Okay, get right in here. And right up in here a little bit. It's not going anywhere. Let's put the flywheel on. Well, before that goes on, before the flywheel goes on, this little spacer's got to go on. I don't know if this thing's necessary, but I've never put one in the car with a, I've never put a transmission in a Neon without it, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up real quick and put this in. So I actually took a minute to clean this thing up. I've never cleaned one of these. I've always just slapped them on. I just used some engine degreaser and a rag. I didn't realize they would clean up that nice. I also didn't realize that they were aluminum. So I think this is actually the one off of this block and not the one that I took off the NYG, because I stepped on the one from the NYG. So, you know, things happen. So these are just held on with one 10mm bolt. I got the bolt here. I'm gonna put on some blue Loctite because I didn't put it on the other engine and it came apart. Well, it didn't come apart. It backed out. Now these little bolts, these plates are held on with one purple socket. As soon as you say that 3-letter word, these things go missing. So I'm not going to say that today. See how well this goes. Yeah, just snug it up, and then this will all get squished down once you bolt the transmission to it and then bolt the starter to it. I've actually snuck these in later on and never put this bolt in, but I like having the bolt there for extra insurance. So I was getting ready to clean up the flywheel and then mount it, and realized that I wanted to put the clutch on the flywheel. And to do that, you really want to mark the orientation of the clutch on the flywheel so you don't have to wrestle it later. And I'm going to explain. I keep saying flywheel. What I really mean is flex plate, because I'm using a modular clutch, which is kind of like a torque converter. Everything's all in one piece. So anyway, this is the flex plate, and none of these holes are actually square. They don't line up. So this is what I'm going to do. It just picked up raining. So that's the back of the flex plate that goes to the block. There's the clutch. So you set it down. And you just try and line the holes up. Oh, there we go. I just missed it. Anyway, once you have that done, take a paint marker. I just picked this up at Walmart. I really wish they had a grease pen, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I'm just going to mark the edge of the clutch and part of the flex plate, a couple of the teeth, I guess, to where it would line up. So, mark the edge of the clutch and a couple of these teeth. Yeah, you can't really see the bronze on rust, but you know, it'll brighten up a little. It'll make it easier when you go to bolt up the clutch. You don't have to rotate the clutch around 4 times. Anyway, got my bolts. I'm just gonna spurt some off. Ooh, it's a lot of brake cleaner. These all look to be in pretty good shape. Yeah, I'm definitely taking off. There's a little bit of a, you know, Loctite on them, and it's coming off with this stuff. So I just looked up the torque specs of the flex plate or drive plate, or, you know, whatever they want to call it. I just looked up the torque specs of that to the crank, and they said 70 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to turn the impact gun down from 3 to 2, and we'll go from there. I'm going to make sure each of these bolts gets a liberal helping of some blue Loctite, and we'll go from there. You know what? I'm going to spritz this off too. Let's see if we can get this to line up. Oh, the first try, baby! All right. Now, where is the spacer? It goes on there too. All right. There's that spacer. Does it line up there? Oh, yeah, buddy. Yeah. Maybe I'll clean up the backside of this thing because it sounds a little crunchy. Which way did that line up? Like that. Oh, is that? Yeah, it's actually lined up. So that's lined up. And then yep. All right, I'm gonna start sending them with this. All right, let's go over these again. So, got the gold mark up here, this gold mark here. I'm just gonna line them up, and they're there. I'll show you what the next one looks like. Yeah. Oh, it's still building compression, so yeah, that's doing pretty good. So there's the bolt hole right there. Just gotta take your bolt and thread it in. So you want to thread all 4 into place, and then that'll show you how to tighten them down. So here's what I do. You can get to basically all 4 of these bolts from kind of anywhere, you know, as long as your wrench is thin enough to fit in between the flex plate and the block. And then you just got to block the crank from moving with a breaker bar. You can just have it against the ground, and then just tighten it up. So the torque spec for the clutch to flex plate bolts is only like 30 pounds. It's not very much. So however much you can get on there is pretty much all you're going to need. I've never had any back out, but I've always put Loctite on those. is really important. You got to put blue Loctite on them. Don't put red on there, because then you're never going to get it off, or it's going to be really hard. You got to bust out a torch, because I've done that. You know, it's all I had at the time, and then later on I had a lot of regret. So I'll clean up the transmission a little bit, clean out the bell housing holes. You know, we'll get to cleaning out this in a minute. This sat for years, so it's, you know, dusty, dirty, and I'm probably not gonna power wash it, but I'm gonna hose it off with some brake cleaner and a brush. So PT Cruiser has these little adjuster springs on it. It has a slightly stronger pressure plate than the stock clutch. I don't know why the stock clutch broke or how it broke. Well, I know why it broke. It's because I was driving it like a dingus. I don't know how it broke. And I could have swore that I had a PT clutch in it, but it was a stock clutch. But anyway, this should hold 270 horsepower, which is far more than I'm going to make. I've heard that these have started coming apart at high RPMs, but the RPMs that I'm going to turn, I think I'm going to be safe. So it was supposed to be me quickly wire brushing off the transmission, then hucking it onto the engine. Turned into me wire wheeling it for a day. And I'm basically running out of time. So I'm going to spritz it with some Graphite Fusion all-in-one spray paint. Primer and spray paint. Because graphite's kind of my... I'm shaking everything. It's kind of my go-to color. I paint all my wheels. If I paint wheels, they get sprayed graphite. If I paint an engine part, it gets sprayed graphite. So, first helmet I bought, it was graphite colored. So, I'm gonna paint the transmission graphite. Basically, I wire wheeled part of it. I brushed part of it. I really should sand it, but I'm not doing that. So I'm gonna spritz it with some paint, and that's where I'm gonna end this video at. So you can see I did not do a great job prepping this. I don't care. I'm just gonna spritz it with some paint. I'm gonna paint over the sensors because they got shit packed in them. They got stuff packed all inside of them. I don't care. I'm gonna cover them up with paint and replace them, because I don't even remember where these sensors came from or how old they are. So. So, as I was recording, my timer went off. The timer goes off, phone stops recording. And it just recorded just about as I ran out of paint. So, I guess I'm done recording for the day. So, this is where I'm going to leave off. I've got the transmission painted. I've got the new clutch installed. So, what I got to do next is put the transmission on the engine block and then kind of shimmy the car out. I can drop it in, but I also have to replace the fuel pump. I think the fuel pump died. One of the last things that happened as I was driving this is that the fuel level sending unit stopped working, and then the car died. You know, I blew up the engine. So that means that the fuel pump was not going to be far behind. And it's been sitting, and it had a couple gallons of gas in it. And usually if you leave a car sitting with gas in it, the fuel pumps go. So I got to grab a fuel pump at some point. I might just order a new one, just a reman one. Anyway, that's all I've got today. You know, I definitely did not stick by my motto these last 2 weeks. I've had a hard 2 weeks. I had some stuff going on, but an hour a day will keep the jack stands away. But sometimes life gets in the way. And you don't get things done like you want to, and that's okay too. Anyway, thanks for watching, nerds.